Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Christine here with a discussion about one of the biggest problems in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires and how you can possibly fix it in an imperfect way to be certain about it, but how you can possibly fix it to some degree using mods. But what is that issue? Is the problem of long campaigns? Is the problem of variety of units, of heroes, just in general variety in a campaign? So let me explain what the problem is. When you're playing a campaign in Immortal Empires as any race, any legendary lord, any race, the most challenge, the most interesting aspect of that campaign from a gameplay standpoint will be in the early game, because that's when you're at your weakest, that's when the AI cheats play the biggest role. But as you play through a campaign more and more and more, as you conquer more and more territory, you end up in a situation where you're just steamrolling the campaign. Basically, you know you've won more or less past, like, say, turn 10, 20, right? You play till turn 30 to solidify that win, and then you might as well stop playing a campaign, because there's almost no chance of you losing. The reason is that the AI cheats don't change. The AI doesn't gain scalability. And that's probably something that Creative Assembly should look to change going forward, because right now, one of the fundamental problems is that the AI cheats are the same throughout the campaign. But obviously, as you play the campaign longer and longer, as settlements gain higher levels, as territory is solidified, the AI ends up being limited. Point is, the AI is strongest early game, but after that, it just can't keep up. And this has been the case in Total War for a very long time, really. I would say since Shogun 2 at the very least, and honestly even before that. Now, there's a couple of problems with this. There's the issue of variety, because you won't be able to... because playing campaign within 30 turns, all well and good, but the issue is the game systems, be it research, buildings, heroes, hero capacity, they're not designed for such a short campaign. They're designed for a longer campaign. There's a lot of systems in the game, be it the influence system for the High Elves, as an example over here with Tyrion, or the cooldown of the rights. For instance, like 30 turns for Invocation of Val, cooldown, 20 turns for Assyrian, 40 for Isha. Clearly, these systems are designed for a much, much longer campaign. And this is not just the case with the High Elves, it's the case with a significant number of races, or virtually all the races in the game at the moment. And that's kind of where the conflict emerges. Because on one hand, the way you want to play the game, the way you're incentivized to play the game on virtually every difficulty, is to rush forward, do as much as possible in as short time as possible, and you do so, and once you manage to do so, there's not much left in the campaign. There's some exceptions, like you can argue about the dwarves or legendary grudges, but even then, there's going to be limitations. And what this kind of leads to is a situation where, let's say you're playing High Elves. This is the kind of army, minus the Phoenix over here, but this is the kind of army you would really have in a High Elf campaign. And honestly, I could remove the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, the Silver Helms, and just go with Spearman Archers, one Mage, one Noble. That's it. No more mages, no more nobles, because getting them, increasing capacity, requires tier 4. So you end up with less variety in your campaign, you end up with less research variety, hero variety, lord variety, unit variety than you would otherwise. And that is a problem. Now, how can you fix this? I've talked about this issue before. How can you fix this? How can you improve on it? Well, there's a couple of things. First off, to increase army variety, you can use the Warband Upgrade mod. And I'll link the mods, the essential mods that I'm using over here in the description below. But you can use the Warband Upgrade mod. It's an imperfect solution to the problem of army variety, because let me be clear, army variety is not about strength. Nothing I'm talking about here is necessarily about strength. It's more so about just having that variety, because being able to actually use your unit roster is fun. it's interesting and makes a campaign better. When you're just playing any high elf campaign and all you're doing is recruiting spearmen and archers with light armor, then that's not a great situation. But it's the most effective army, and you don't want to do so for several reasons, like limitation of how many building slots we have. Like, so a lot of people would even argue that getting a tier 1 barracks for archers with light armor is not worth it. Instead, you should just focus, on elven craftsman, plaza, homestead for growth. In terms of research, because you are playing a shorter campaign, there's always going to be the firm argument that some research is worth it far more than others. In this case, I've unlocked a lot of research. I'll talk about how. But if you're playing as high elves, you want to get essentially the same thing over and over again. Archer prowess, into militia training. By that point, you want to get military advancements too, and get precise fletching. Now, I've done a lot more in this campaign, but that's because I'm using mods. What kind of mods, beyond warband upgrade? Well, there is the mod configuration tool with the ultimate campaign configuration mod. Now, this hasn't been updated in a while, so just bear in mind. It's kind of considered the cheat engine, but you can buff yourself or you can buff the AI. Now, there's discussion on what the best settings would be on the subject, but my intent over here with the particular campaign here, I'm sure there might be some other mods that can help with this. Specifically, construction time would be great on this. But what you can do over here, you gotta have the mod configuration tool, so MCT, and then you get the ultimate campaign configuration tool. And this gives you a bunch of options. With climate, though, I'm using a separate climate mod that removes all climate penalties. Removing climate penalties is going to be exceptionally useful because it means you can take more of the map and actually feel you're gaining something in terms of useful territory, as opposed to it being a net drain on your resources and not really worth it for dozens and dozens of turns. That's kind of one of the problems with climate suitability in the whole climate system. So you can change climate, you can change diplomacy, aversion for yourself, for the AI, right? So those are the kind of things. You can change the economic situation. In this case, the only thing I've done in economy, the only things I've done for economy is I've given the AI more money, myself some money, like I've increased the AI background income by 10,000. Maybe I should have reduced that by a bit, but I gave myself 2,500 background income, reduced building costs. Because what ends up happening in a lot of campaigns, the bulk of the money that I'm getting, I'm not spending it on armies. I'm not spending it on variety. I'm spending it on buildings to increase more money. And eventually it pays off in the long term. That's how the game is designed. But I'm spending money to gain money. It works, but when I'm spending money to get money, I'm not spending that money on unit variety. I'm not spending that money on hero capacity. I'm spending it just to get more money, to get growth, etc. That's one of the things this helps. Then you get various buffs to lords, but I didn't touch that. But there's a lot of things to customize. I did, however, increase the province growth by 200 for both myself and AI, by 100 for Horde army. So Black Arcs will be able to grow faster than they do in the base game. The same with Vampire Coast armies. And because of that increased growth and lower construction costs that's tying together, well, right now, I'm getting a tier 5 capital. Elfarian already has a tier 5 capital. Malekith has a tier 5 capital. And while there's some tweaking that might be necessary for individual races, for instance, like giving Dark Elves more recruitment options, racial issues are still going to be there. AI issues are still going to be there. There are some AI mods that can help with this, though which one is the best, that's possibly a discussion for another time. Dark Elves suffer because they need Black Arcs for recruitment, and otherwise they have limited recruitment slots. Unfortunately, the mod doesn't allow you to just, tweak some of these settings more for certain races. Because you can, basically, you have a selection of options, and you don't just want to give everyone more recruitment slots. You might want to give the Dark Elves recruitment slots, but yeah, that's gonna be a tricky affair. I've given myself global recruitment slots over here. I mean, the AI has a bunch of global recruitment slots benefits, by the way, and local recruitment slots, so just worth it. But I did increase their local recruitment slots, so that should have helped the Dark Elves, but yeah, there's still some issues. But growth, construction cost, instant rank. So in this campaign, every lord you recruit, every hero you recruit, gets a level 8 benefit. Every legendary lord starts at rank 12. So this means that they can unlock a huge amount of power from the beginning, and the intent of all of this combined, as well as, you know, recruitment slots, etc., as well as faster research, was to allow for a faster early game, a faster build-up of that early game, so that we can have a more exciting mid-game, specifically. And I could have gone even further. Like, all that I've achieved, the control of Ulthuan in this campaign, all of the territory that I control, I could have done so, and I've done so many times, in pure vanilla settings. Doing this as Tyrion is not exceptional. But what is interesting is not what I've achieved, is what's been happening around the world. Like, yeah, sure, I'm getting, you know, a higher end army. This army is going to be probably a lot more fun to use than just spearmen with archers. I mean, it's the upgrade to that. And mind you, once I get dragons, full dragon recruitment, it's going to get even better. But let's consider the campaign map and what's been going on, because things have been interesting in certain respects, in quite a lot of respects, actually. Ignoring Nagron, or rather with Nagron, Warriors of Chaos generally achieve very little in their campaigns. Over here, Valkia wiped out Hellebron, and let me tell you, having played on Legendary a lot of times, that happening is pretty damn exceptional.
First for battle.
She also has 3 armies over here in this campaign. Be'lakor has actually done some things. He wiped out Sigvald and took 3 Dark Fortresses. Again, something that doesn't happen, so that's interesting. Trog has effectively conquered most of Norska, though I think he's going to have some problem because of Kislev and Malachi showing up against him. Hellpit has been wiped out. Vlad is about to conquer the freaking Empire. Because like basically once Elspeth is dead, and she is effectively dead over here. But once Elspeth is dead, there's nothing to stop him from taking Reichland. Karl Franz does have multiple armies over here. But he's also at war with Grom. There's also the issue of Kemmler, who's got multiple armies coming here, ready to invade Ulthuan. Further down to the south, we can see that Grom, the Punch, and Ikekla are about to wipe out the Fey Enchantress, and once that happens, well, I'd say things are gonna get real nasty real quick for the entirety of Athaloran, especially now that Ikekla is almost at a tier 5 level. So basically, this campaign is just about to get started full force over here once you start dealing with that. Like, the AI recruiting higher level lords, having access to higher end units, it will certainly make things a heck of a lot more interesting. Like, the battles already that I fought here against Illustra, against Noctilus, against Marathi, have already been far more interesting. Though, of course, there is the possibility that things don't go really badly, for the AI in particular. There is one specific AI behavior that is going to have a negative impact, and I'm not sure if there's any way to fix it, if there's any mods for it. I haven't seen anything like that. And that particular behavior is that the AI seems to be limited in terms of how many armies it can recruit on the campaign map. Basically, it's like 3-4 armies. Sometimes, if it builds a large empire, it can recruit more, but most of the time it is capped at that. Like, for instance, Karl Franz over here should really be recruiting a lot more armies. He certainly has the money. He has that massive upkeep, massive increase. Maybe it would be best to just modify over here to lower AI to lower AI upkeep even further, but reduce the background income that they have, because I'm sure the AI is making decisions not based on this background income, which is not reflected over here, but more so making those decisions based on based on what's their upkeep situation, right? But just keep in mind that the AI does have some fairly significant upkeep benefits for their armies already. So if you're reducing that upkeep by, say, 30%, you're looking at some pretty damn cheap AI armies over there. And even then, I'm not quite sure if it would matter as much. Because, like, you consider Alfarian right here, right? If I say were to trade with him, he probably has a ton of money. In fact, like, let's just do a bit of settlement trading over here, see how much money he has. Okay, so I've already gotten 13,000. Let's see the Shrine of Loic, 14,000. Let's keep going until I literally run out of settlement, or he runs out of money in this case, right? So you can see that he has an absurd freaking level. Like, yeah, he's sitting at over 60,000 gold, and yet he's only got 2 forces. That is certainly a problem. I believe that to some extent it might be that AI is hard scripted to not recruit more than a certain number of armies based on the number of provinces that it does have. And that's the reason why you might see a lot of armies for, say, someone like Grimgor, who can take a lot of provinces, though even he only has like 4 armies over here, and Tamargon is coming for him, that's for damn certain. But yeah, that can absolutely be a problem. Though Xiao Ming over here, I would not want to be dealing with Cafe over here. He's got 4 stacks, and he's moving towards Tier 5. He's going to have Flying Hellstorms in just a moment. Miao Ying seems to be in a bit of a pickle, though she does seem that she's defeating the Skaven over here at the very least. But yeah, there are tons of possibilities with with these kind of mods, but obviously they don't fix all of the issues. And yes, I have been sending an expedition over here to try and save Teclis from the tender mercies of Kairos in this particular campaign. But you won't necessarily set a different campaign pace in the sense of like how long it's going to take you to win a campaign. That's probably not going to be changed, because you still have to take a number of territories, and if the AI is recruiting more stuff and getting higher tier settlements, well, higher tier settlements are going to be inherently harder to take, especially if they have a full stack on top of the garrison. But the overall pace is not going to change. What will change is the diversity of units, diversity of recruitment, diversity of heroes in a campaign, just more options in general. And if you don't have to care about, say, growth, then you don't need to bother with growth buildings in a particular settlement. And that is good because, again, it just gives you those extra options. Like, one of the things that's annoying is like how many buildings you need to construct for, economic purposes that are just like, oh, make a control building that gives you income, make an income building, make a building that's just increasing, giving you a bit of influence, increasing income from ports, all that, right? Like, yeah, the building situation is not necessarily great. I personally still miss the building system from Medieval 2, personally. Like, I've never liked what they did with Empire and After Empire, personally. It was kind of hilarious that CA had this disclaimer in Rome 1 remastered saying it's like, oh, it doesn't have a bunch of quality of life features that newer Total War games. Then we played it and it was freaking awesome from a campaign standpoint. Pretty bad in terms of battle pathfinding, not gonna lie. Like, if the battle pathfinding of the performance of that game was better, I think it would have done significantly better, but that's just what it is when you make a cheap port. Regardless, this is a way to make campaigns more interesting. How you balance these kind of settings, what settings you go for, that is a different discussion. Personal preference, try and tweak it around. I probably will tweak it around a bit more. But I'm just looking for a variety. I'm looking for more dynamic campaigns. And look, if anyone knows, like, a mod that reduces construction time by just 1 would be great. If someone knows a mod that increases campaign movement range for both you and AI, because I've seen a bunch of player ones, but I'm looking for an AI one because I want to play Old World, and I think that would be really good. Like 50%, 75%, not quite 100%. But yeah, just a bit. Those kind of things would be great. And maybe a mod that allows the AI to recruit more than one army, or incentivizes and pushes the AI to recruit as many armies as it freaking can in a campaign. Maybe that would help, right? That would be useful. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Questine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Stay tuned for more.